Hello, I'm your host Jim McLean. Welcome back to another episode of the Banterflix movie review show here on NVTV. Let's see what movies we'll be talking about tonight. We'll be sharing our thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And our pick of the streams is Dexter Fletcher's Ghosted, which is streaming now on Apple+. So that's what we've lined up for you in this week's show. And joining me in the studio this evening is Adam Starlord Neeson. Hello to your good self.
Evening, Jim.
Adam, we have a packed show. We're going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We can see already you have a bit of an invested interest in the franchise, and you've been on the show before, and you nearly reduced even cold-hearted old me to tears with your story for your love for that series. We will come back to that, and you can share that again. We're also going to be talking about Ghosted. Be interested to see what you think of that film. I have thoughts, but before we get into that, let's have a look at some movie news.
Jonas, we've got company.
That's the biggest Meg I've ever seen.
Biggest Meg anyone's ever seen.
That's the apex predator.
Everybody make it to the station! You can make it! Inside!
So that's a look at Meg 2. The Trench is going to be out in cinemas in August. Jason Statham, he's back and he's fighting a megalodon. Sorry, I couldn't keep that up, otherwise it would be the rest of the entire show, Adam. Loads of trailers we could have talked about this week. We had Oppenheimer released, I know just before we finished last week, the June 2 trailer dropped online, but nothing says cinema to me like a giant shark, Jason Statham, and this time round, Ben Wheatley. So I don't know, Adam, were you a fan of the first film when it came out? I know a lot of people did dub it the Meh when it came out. I enjoyed it for what it was. There's loads of things we can talk about it, but I'm intrigued by this because, yeah, you know, it's a big shark. I love a shark movie, but also it's the fact that Ben Wheatley, one of my favourite filmmakers, is probably directing his most mainstream release to date, his biggest blockbuster to date. So I'm hoping, and I get the glimpse from that from the trailer, enough of Ben Wheatley is going to come through on this film, and it's not just going to seem soulless and generic. I don't know, we'll have to wait till it's out to review it, but first glimpses from the trailer, what do you think?
Looks fun. I actually seen the first Meg twice in one day by mistake. I went with a friend from work, and we, you know, both like 80s movies lovers, and we were excited for Statham and sharks and him fighting sharks. Incredible. And then later on that day, my girlfriend said, "Can we go see the Meg? Because I love shark movies." And then I was trapped in a hell for an hour and a half. Not really a movie that works on repeat for you in the same 24 hours. Meg 2, The Trench. Will I have to see it twice? Just like I've seen Joker 45 times, as we've talked about in the podcast before. Yes, because dinosaurs, megalodons, and Statham is really a good mix with Ben Wheatley, who is a competent director and hopefully not doing it just for the paycheck.
I don't mind it if Ben's doing it for the paycheck, because we all got to eat, we all have mortgages to pay. I'm just intrigued by a filmmaker who's made, as I say, some of my favourite horror films over the past, 15 years or so. Intrigued to see what he's going to do in this environment. The first film I have a soft spot for, but it is, I know we're going to come back to this later on when we're talking about a certain film, Ghosted, I'm looking at you, but it was generic. It was designed to be a film that would appeal to the broadest audience, to Eastern audiences, Western audiences, and it took an A-list star like Jason Statham, plonked him down into the sea, literally, and said, "Right, Jason, go fight a megalodon." Sorry, the voice is going to come out. It's like I need an exorcism. It will always be there when the Statham is there. And yeah, it had its charm, but it was a bit generic. It was a bit meh, I know, as we've alluded to. But this time round, I mean, we've both mentioned this. I've said the most intriguing aspect for me isn't the fact that it's a sequel, because it made money at the box office, so producers will also always go, well, you know, it made that amount of money, so therefore, greenlit, we can get a sequel. It's the fact that Ben Wheatley's directing. This is the draw for me. And I know you've kind of mentioned that. How much of a draw for that film will be the presence of Ben Wheatley?
I don't know. It's he's able to create great stories out of very little. He did The Kill List, which is about 2 hitmen that takes a turn, and he also made In the Ground, which was, you know, pandemic heavy, but was able to create a scary movie just in the woods, which isn't easy to do. So, given a big budget and Statham, and you know, it seems to be multiple Megs. You know, that classic Family Guy joke. Oh no, it's bigger Jaws. I'm fine with that. So Ben Wheatley being on board, good. To be fair, would I have seen this if it wasn't Wheatley? Probably. But with someone capable captaining the ship, it gives me hope that it'll actually be good.
Yeah, I want it to have a bit of personality about itself. Again, sorry, Ghosted, I might come back to this later on, where it didn't just feel like it had been put into a machine and said, right, this will happen. Jason Statham, he has to kick a shark, has to do this, etc. I'm just hoping that there's more of a charm, there's more of a personality, and we're not just relying on the presence of the Stife to carry us across the finishing line. Look, we'll have to wait till August, till it's out, so we can actually talk about it. Fingers crossed is all I can say. I mentioned there was a couple other trailers as well. We had a new, I think it's a final trailer for Oppenheimer, Chris Nolan's next film, his most grounded looking film for quite some time, and having recently went back to cinemas and watched Interstellar, and recently we watched Tenet as well. I'm intrigued to see what will happen there. But then the big blockbuster, I suppose, for the latter stages of this year is Dune Part 2. So any of those trailers, I know we're pushed for time, but very quickly, any of those really intriguing you?
Oppenheimer, big bomb, go boom. And Dune 2, big worm, go cool.
Couldn't have said it better. As we said, we're pushed for time, so I think we'll move on and we'll get stuck into some films we can talk about now.
You so much, and maybe if you open yourself up to it, there's a possibility.
I don't think so, Quinn.
Quill.
I don't think so.
Well, what I'm trying to say is...
Peter, you know this is an open line, right?
What?
We're listening to everything you're saying.
And it is painful.
And you're just telling me now?
We were hoping it would stop on its own.
But I switched it over to private.
What color button did you push?
Blue, for the blue suit.
Oh no.
Blue was the open line for everyone.
Orange is for blue.
What?
Black is for orange. Yellow is for green. Green is for red, and red is for yellow.
No, yellow is for yellow. Green is for red, red is for green.
I don't think so.
Try it then.
You were right.
So that's a look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, Adam, as we said at the start of the show, people can see by your attire and by the helmet we have on the table here, you have a bit of an invested love and interest in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. We had you on just before Christmas talking about the holiday special that was available on Disney+, still available on Disney+, and probably anybody going in to watch this film, we'd recommend seeking that out on the streaming service. But we're not reviewing that. We've already done that. But just for anyone who maybe missed that show, and just because I want to push you and maybe make you cry a little, or well up a little bit, do you want to tell our viewers at home why you love the franchise? Not specifically this film, but just the series.
It's really a franchise about gaining family. And even though that borders on Fast and Furious, it's about people that are broken and come together to, you know, make themselves better, even though they may be criminals or murderers, which I'm sure we'll talk about for this third movie. It's a lot of people that have went through trauma and have been able to connect with each other. These movies, it's almost a decade now, and through the whole Infinity Saga, a lot of time has passed for these characters. Now, it might seem ridiculous that I'm talking about a franchise that involves a tree and a raccoon, but they are some of the most human and well connecting characters in this overall franchise of the MCU. You know, it is something that is close to my heart, and I just love these misfits, for as bad as they might be, but they can really teach a lot of people what it's like to have a family when you don't have a perfect home, or where you've come from. You can gain people along the way, and they can build you up, break you down, but they'll make you a better person no matter what.
Okay, so you've kept it together for now. So that's your love for the series. I have to admit, I came into Guardians not knowing much about the characters, the series themselves. It was just the latest installment in the MCU, and the first film took me by surprise. And I've said it before, it's the closest I think I've come to Star Wars. For those people of that age that went to see Star Wars the first time round and it caught them by surprise and they just fell in love with that space opera, that's probably the closest thing I've had, maybe Lord of the Rings aside. But in terms of recapturing that sci-fi space opera, I loved the first film. The second one, I think, has its moments. I think it's a little bit flawed. I think it never really delivers fully on the promise of bringing Kurt Russell into the MCU. But nevertheless, it does it. So third time round, the first half hour, genuinely, I felt like putting my head between my legs. Because I was sitting in the cinema seat and I sat there going, I love James Gunn, I love these characters. This film is a bit of a mess. It's all over the place. Even the presence of Nathan Fillion, even is there to leave me going. There's a whole element very early on. It's not too much of a spoiler. They go to this organic planet to find, I can't remember specifically what they're trying to find. More details, as we said, about Rocket's creator. And it's all over the place and it's frantic. But what keeps drawing us in is we see the backstory of Rocket, and we see the heart that James Gunn pumps into that, and the interchange between the Guardians, these misfits, as you said. That kind of held it together for me. And then once the film finds its feet, I settled down and I went, okay, I really like this film. I do enjoy, probably it's having anyone who's watched the show regularly, I know there's a few, who will know I haven't been a fan of the MCU's output, both on the big screen and the small screen. There's just been so much. Once this film settles into itself and it gets past that frantic opening, the introduction to an extent of Will Poulter's character, he's literally thrown into the screen. He literally flies into the screen. I enjoyed the film. First half hour, I'll hold my hands up. I said, this feels like it could be awful. It's like Ant-Man, Quantumania all over again, where it's throwing so much at you. And there's so much you need to have, not invested interest, but pre-knowledge of. You need to have probably watched the Christmas special for a few things. Definitely need to have seen the previous two. You can't just drop in. And I'd say that might be a problem for some who just go, oh, latest MCU film, let's go see it. There's a lot there that you probably need to have knowledge beforehand. Once it settles down, loved it. But that was my reservations. But what about you?
Loved it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I agree. It can be a bit messy, but I unabashedly look past it. When we're talking about Marvel movies recently, it just kind of seems like you're talking about content rather than actually a story. And with Guardians 3, you have this story of Rocket and his origins, and it kind of makes an argument for growing up in a broken home or not feeling wanted or not feeling loved, and applies it to the CGI raccoon. And it's a testament to Gunn and Bradley Cooper and Sean Gunn, his brother, that plays Rocket on set, that they're able to create this character that can make you cry, that can make you feel. It is one of the better performances in the MCU ever. It's incredible. Everybody else, really fun. I think Chris Pratt in the first 20 minutes is a bit glazed over. I thought if I had any criticism about the movie, it only is within the last hour, you're kind of like, oh, Star-Lord's back. Nebula, I think, in the whole series of these movies and like the Avengers and stuff, has grown from this bratty sister that just wanted to work for Thanos, and now she's like a mother to the whole group. You know, Drax isn't really a destroyer; he's a lover. You know, and then we have, of course, your favorite Mantis, who is, you know, she is someone that grew up alone and then had this family, and then now kind of realizes that there is a whole world that she can explore.
As messy as I found the first half hour, I still think this is James Gunn film. I don't want perfection every time, and by the time it reaches its finale, I'm satisfied. Considering the point that at one point he was removed from this project due to historical comments on social media, it's great, I think, I suppose, coming back to bring ourselves on some sentiment of track. We've mentioned the soundtrack, haven't got you to answer that question, but also coming at the fact that James Gunn gets to complete his trilogy with the Guardians.
Yeah, the soundtrack, to me, I went and bought the vinyl on Friday because I can't help myself and I don't have any money, but, you know, I'll happily waste it on Guardian stuff. It's a good soundtrack. The only song I think is out of place is Space Hogs in the Meantime, when they're in the 2001 Space Odyssey suits. I think, because Gunn always does diegetic music, you know, it plays into the actual scene itself, somebody's always listening to it, and that song kind of just felt like it was just dropped in. Good song, but it felt like if it's just any old song could have been played in that scene. It didn't really fit for me. But for Gunn being the guy who he is, he's definitely matured as a filmmaker, and that is evident in the storytelling in Volume 3. You know, people said that Endgame was the last movie they'll see in the MCU, and you know, people have stuck about for more, but it feels like this could be the end for the MCU. It's almost a movie for people that, you know, were kids when it started, and now they've matured to the point where you can say goodbye to this sort of stuff. I know for me, you know, I'm a big Marvel guy, but I'll not be rushing out to see, you know, Blade or the Marvels, not on day one anyway, although the Marvels does look fun, but for me as a franchise, it is kind of like, it's not goodbye, I'll see you later, because it's not really winning me over.
It does feel like an end, probably for the Guardians more so than the MCU, but in a clever Marvel way. They know what they're doing. In the way that it leaves things, it's open-ended. I know there is in the post-credit, will not say specifically, but it does say Star-Lord will return, or the legendary Star-Lord will return. So they have left it open. I think it's that sense of this particular group of the Guardians we may never see together as the Guardians, but we may well see them in the next. We know there's going to be not one but two more Avengers movies. The last thing I will say, because I can sense my producer saying we need to move on, Jim, there's another movie we have to talk about this evening. James Gunn, as much as I talk about, he's someone that can do heart. He is one of the best directors I can think of right now who can do an action sequence. Sometimes, admittedly, coming back to that point at the start, it's a bit crash bang wallop. It throws too much at you, at the kitchen sink right at you from the get-go. Near the end, there is a very impressive action sequence that it just is a testament to him as a filmmaker. I know it's getting a bit gushy. James, if you're watching, tweet us, you know, we're fans. But last comments, I know we're pushed for time. Again, James Gunn action sequences, some of these are fantastic in the film.
Just with Will Poulter and Adam Warlock, he was clearly testing out his Superman skills with Warlock's flying, so he is making Superman Legacy, and it is kind of based on Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman, which is a very emotional book, so I really look forward to that.
Okay, so that's that. So that's Guardians of the Galaxy. So thumbs up from you and I. Let's move from the big screen to the digital screen.
Little bet. Race me to the top. And if I beat you, you gotta tell me what scares you.
I love this.
All right, I like the confidence. Hang on, wait. Let me just hang on.
Oh, come on. Put all that in here.
You're gonna carry all my stuff? Okay. Wait.
You're looking for pity?
That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Oh, my friend.
You ready? And go! I'm guessing you work out.
Are you okay?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a look at Ghosted. It's available now on Apple Plus. We were very passionate and very positive about Guardians 3. You more so than myself. I said before we had our reservations, but this moves on to the Ana de Armas' Chris Evans feature. It's available now on Apple Plus, their streaming service. I think if I'm right, it was going to be originally theatrically released and then Apple bought that. I don't know, this time we have a love story of sorts, a fish out of water. We have Chris Evans. He's a farmer here in Northern Ireland. We know quite a few of those. If it was here, he'd be at the Balmoral show this week. But in this film, he's fallen in love with Ana de Armas' character, who just happens to be a secret agent. In my head, throughout most of this, it felt like a gender-swapped Night and Day, the Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz feature. It was out a good few years ago. We've seen this type of film before, even the likes of My Super Ex-Girlfriend, to an extent. But this time round, we have an impressive ensemble cast. There's a lot of A-list talent involved. We have Dexter Fletcher, a filmmaker I love. But what did you think, Adam?
Well, whenever you text me to tell me that we were watching this, I asked, what are we watching this week, Jim? Thinking, Star Wars last week or Cinco de Mayo, something maybe a bit spicy. And you've handed me a meal deal consisting of a cheese sandwich, sparkling water and ready salted crisps. This is terrible. There's no ifs, ands or buts about it. Watching this was a pain. Maybe I'm being, too hard on it, but really with the talent behind it and the fact that it's on a subscription service that you have to, go out of your way, even though if you go buy a pack of strawberries at Tesco's, they're giving you 6 months free of Apple. This is really a shame because Chris Evans, obviously Captain America, for so long in the MCU, and Ana de Armas, who is a brilliant up-and-coming actress, and Dexter Fletcher. Rocketman was one of my favourite movies of that year. This is just drivel, and Chris Evans can't get out of the Captain America mode, which doesn't make for a good shucks, I'm just a normal bloke type of guy. And Ana de Armas is just there. It is very strange, and then you have cameos, which can I spoil? Can't spoil, folks. But I'll just say this: this is the second movie you've made me review where a certain Deadpool actor turns up out of the blue, and I almost threw up in my mouth.
Well, Wrexham's co-owner may or may not make an appearance in this film. I feel bad for viewers, I'm sorry, because I always try to see each week if we could disagree. And we have kind of on Guardians. I have more reservations about it than you. I did not like Ghosted. I sat at home with my lovely wife and my mum. She was up visiting over the weekend and we watched this, and it's 2 hours long, and I felt like at one point I could have a nap. And I know exactly how this film is going to resolve. But I persevered. For you viewers at home, I know there's a couple of people have said that there's no real chemistry between the two. I didn't not buy them together, but it just felt like you're A-list talent, there's another A-list talent, put them together, it's bound to work. It's going to happen. I know Scarlett Johansson for a while was attached and then had to step out. What surprises me the most is the fact both Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, they're exec producers in this. They've spearheaded this project together. And coming back to another film that's on streaming services, because of course other streamers are available, stuff like The Grey Man, where they're on screen again together. There was another film that felt very generic. And It's uninspired, it's lazy. I don't know, I don't want to end the show on a negative note, Adam. We could talk again about Guardians, but we've talked quite a bit about that. But I suppose coming back to it in a way, because you're here, you've got your Star-Lord cosplay, some of it on anyway. What is it about a film like Guardians 3, where you and I have both said we can clearly see James Gunn coming through? And as I said, it feels like a project he's designed from start to finish. Compared to something like this, that just feels so soulless, so meh. And I feel like I should apologise for making you watch it. So I am sorry, Adam, that I made you watch it, but I had to, so somebody else had to. And everybody else wants to watch it at home, fair game. But coming back to my last point, what is it about a film like Guardians 3 that, where we see the director coming through, that we don't get in a film like this?
The word in my head that immediately jumped out was sterile. Everything looks sterile, you know. There's a bit when Chris Evans is kidnapped by Tim Blake Nelson and it's in a cave and it clearly looks like a set. You know, there's a bit when he's being tortured in the boot of a car and when it cuts out too wide, it's like a parking lot in the middle of like Atlanta. There's just no... There's no real love put into any scene, and whether that's the writing, the lighting, the acting, just any of it just seems like we had a good time on set. You know, two good-looking people on a set, and if I follow Dexter Fletcher online, and he's been pumping this up for a while, so whether, you know, it has been chopped down into something that doesn't recognize, like it's not what he wanted to make, who knows, but it is written by the guys that wrote Deadpool and Zombieland 1 and 2, and those movies are just lacking in any sort of flair or style or there's no human basis to bring it back to. They just seem like one-dimensional characters, and it doesn't matter what happens to them because they're the main character, so it'll be fine. You know, there's a part near the end of this when they're in a dome and it starts spinning and they're stuck to the windows, and it may as well be like a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Okay, well look, Adam, we are sadly out of time. I am sad that we've finished the show on a bit of a downbeat negative note. I know in the old days, in the previous guide of the show, we would have asked our contributors their film of the week. I don't think it would have been Ghosted. I get a strong opinion. It may not have been Ghosted this week. But those are the two titles we've reviewed on this week's show. Let's have a look at what films we'll be looking at next week.
So go on, spill the tea. What happened?
She cheated on me with my best friend.
Wait, is that... No, I need to figure this out because it's baffling. You dumped this funny, clever, successful accountant for this jobless human bin fire.
My work precedes me.
Just be normal and regular like everybody else. Just please, 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 please.
What I can't say.
I've decided I want you to join my secret club. If you want to be in the club, then you have to wear a bra.
Oh. You think you need one?
So that's a look at Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret, and Rylane, which we'll be talking about next week. Adam, any of those intriguing you? Any of those films you wished you could have been reviewing this week?
Both, actually. As much as I love Guardians, Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret. Looks fantastic. And Rylane is probably one of the best rom-coms I've seen in a while.
Okay, well, that's your thoughts. We'll have to see what we think about it next week in the studio. So that's all we have time for on this week's show. So all that's left for me to do is thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you very much, Jim.
And thanks very much for watching at home. We'll be back next week with another episode. But for now, until then, goodbye.